Yep, so hey everyone, welcome to this Catalyst School session. Today is how to be a veteran community advisor or a VCA. And I'll be hosting this session together with Chris from IUG because the rules are changing. So I also need to relearn how to be a CA to learn the new rules and guidelines. So Chris is here to help us with that. And we also have Lucho from the school team. He's here with us and he's going to be answering your questions in the chat during the presentation. So yeah. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah. Looking good.
Good. So I'll just talk a couple minutes about the Catalyst School project before we start talking about being a veteran community advisor. So I figured that some of you already seen this slide, so I won't take much time here. But the Catalyst School is a project that was born, I think, 3 months ago because we saw this need within the community to onboard new members, either proposers, CAs, or VCAs, or even general community, Catalyst community members. So we decided to create this project. It was born within Catalyst, and our idea is to provide this information to new community members through live sessions and workshops like this one, also through some one-to-one and group support. And this we can provide in many different languages. We are growing the number of languages that we can provide support. I think the first time I presented this, we had 7 languages, and now we are at, I think, 13 languages. So it's really nice to see this. More and more people coming together and helping us with this project. And we also aim at building a website with interactive content for people who prefer not to join these sessions or not to go to these one-to-one and group support. So they can just join our website and learn how to do things there. And also some other related workshops about being in Catalyst in general, like open source workshops and other kind of workshops. And I think, Robert, when you draw on the screen, it shows, it appears to me here, I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone, but we can see your drawings here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone can see it.
It's your screen is crashed.
I think I can erase them. Yeah. Great. So this is our final week within Fund 6. We've run all these workshops so far about introduction to Catalyst and proposing in Catalyst how to be a community advisor. And now we are in the first session of how to be a veteran community advisor. And we are going to have another one in the next Saturday during the Catalyst Swarm session. And our goal is to continue this for the following funds. We have some proposals submitted in Fund 6. Since you guys are also CAs, it's probably you've seen some of them out there. And if you want to connect with us, you can join. You can follow us on Twitter, join our Telegram group, our Discord server, and there are some other links to our platforms here in this last link. Okay, so now we are starting. I hope this doesn't take more than 1 hour, the whole presentation. And if you want to ask some questions during the presentation, please raise your hand and I'll allow you some space, some time for you to ask your questions so everyone can also participate and learn. And if you want to just write in the chat, you can do that as well. Lucho is here to help us with that. So what is a veteran community advisor? I think most of you already know about this because you've been here for a while since you've been a CA in the previous funds. And actually, this is one of the requirements for being a veteran community advisor. I'll talk about this in a bit. But a veteran community advisor basically is just a member of the Catalyst community who is expected to review proposals, assessments, and to classify them as excellent, good, or filtered out. So, as I mentioned, the only requirement currently to be a veteran community advisor is that you've been a successful community advisor in a previous fund. And it means that you received the rewards for doing that. And for example, if there is a case and when you are a community advisor that, for example, you submit an assessment which is offensive or it has some profanity and you are completely removed from that fund. So in this specific case, you are not allowed to be a veteran community advisor in the following fund. So yeah, this is quite simple. So, and we are going to get into more details about what does it mean to have an excellent, a good, or a filtered out assessment. And just some facts about veteran community advisors. First one is that VCAs are not anonymous. So this is different from being a CA. When you are a CA, you just have a CA ID assigned to you so that veteran community advisors can check different assessments from the same CA, but they don't know who that CA is. But in the case of VCAs, your name is shown to everyone. Everyone can see what were your reviews, which assessment you decided that was excellent, which one was good, filtered out. But during the review phase, the QA phase itself, it's not possible to VCAs to check each other's work. They cannot see what was the classification that other VCAs gave to a specific assessment, for example. By using the VCA tool, which we are going to present at the end of this presentation, you can check how many reviews each assessment already have, but not what was the rank gave by other VCAs. So this is the tool exists for us to distribute the workload, and we cover all the assessments, but not to like somehow influence us and the other VCAs when we are reviewing the assessments. And you can also choose which assessments you'd like to review. If you are using the VCA tool, for example, it's going to suggest you an assessment to be reviewed, but you can just choose to skip this assessment. If you don't really know if it's a good or excellent or should be filtered out or any other reason, you can just skip this one and move to the next ones. And the same rule that applies for CAs, it also applies here. If you are a VCA in a challenge, if you have a proposal actually in one of the challenges in Fund 6, you cannot be a VCA there. So you are not going to be influenced by your own proposal, like to remove the assessments that gave low scores to your own proposal or gave high scores to competitors' proposals, something like this. There is a conflict of interest in this case. And the VCA rewards are proportional to the number of reviews made by each VCA. So we are going to talk a little bit more about this in the following slide. Yeah, Andre.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I have a small question on this, but first I'll tell a bit about myself. So I'm in Catalyst since Fund 1, and I've been a proposer, so it's more than a year. And only now this fund I joined as a CA because in past it was considered like a conflict of interest if you are a proposer and you are a community advisor. So I even didn't consider it, even that I wasn't proposer in all of the funds. But this time, and because we have multiple categories, so it's possible to be, and I already did some reviews and maybe actually looking forward to be VCA somewhere in the future. And the question which I noticed that I didn't submit that assessment, that I can submit assessment in the challenge where I have a proposal. Maybe then later it would be filtered out and it would match with my profile, but right now there is this possibility. So I clicked assess and I was able to submit. Of course, I didn't submit and I will submit reviews only on there, but just maybe a small suggestion that it can be fixed for the future. And the question, another question, maybe that's for another part. And I think that many people will be curious in terms of monetary rewards, who can get more rewards like VCAs or CAs, if you have some math on this. And one more small idea, because we already have a lot of CAs and the number of VCAs will grow also. Maybe there might be added some improvement. And during the town hall, I saw the stats and calculated that approximately in average, each CA did 10 reviews. Correct me if I'm wrong, but some of course did only several and some did, I don't know, maybe you know what is maximum. I don't know, 30, 50, 100 maybe. So maybe there can be also some numerous gaps. So in order to be VCA, you need to do, of course, not 100, but maybe like more than 10 reviews. And yeah, I think if people will be motivated to be VCA, they can plan that particular week so that they will work on reviews. And actually what I'm planning to do for the next challenge that I will start, I will allocate more time to read the proposals before that week. So just to read and be more familiar with it. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Andre. You're right. There is, you can submit an assessment if you are a proposer and a CA in the same challenge, but there are some mechanisms in the background that are set to remove these assessments. And yeah, so if you do this, it's not going to be taken into consideration in the final score, and you are not going to receive rewards for that. And about the improvements that you mentioned, yeah, I also think that there should be some more requirements for people to be VCAs, but I think that this was not implemented so far because we were actually struggling with the number of VCAs to review all the assessments. So we needed everyone who we could get. But now that we have more people participating in the process, it may be possible to create some new requirements for this area.
Just want to pick up on one thing, if that's all right.
Sure.
So Tommy, you're asking for Victor to explain this. I'll just, is it the point around the different criteria that you're wanting some go on?
Sorry, Chris, your voice is quite low. To me.
Oh, okay. How's that?
Better.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, the rationale for what part? Can we just clarify what it is that Tommy was asking for?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying not to speak because people are sleeping. But
okay, sorry.
So basically, my question is, when you write, or when you rate it as excellent or good or filtered out, and you need to provide reasoning if it's filtered out, but do you also need to provide reasoning why it's good or why it's excellent?
Yeah, so I see. So you want to get into some of the nuts and bolts around what the definitions are, is that right?
I think it's just a general question. Are we providing rationale or just ticking a box?
Yes.
Okay, so no, it isn't a box ticking exercise. You should provide a little bit of rationale.
Even for excellent?
I mean, yeah, I would say so. You know, what's
is there a box available?
Sorry if I interrupt, but I don't think that we decided to have a rationale provided by VCAs. It's just box ticking. In the last meeting with Marek, we just decided that, and the tools will be able only to flag good, excellent, good, or not valid assessments. So no rationale.
Okay, so probably not one for this session now. Is then like we're gonna have to think about how we assess our ability to be VCAs in the future. Maybe this is going to be a learning exercise because if everyone's just box ticking. I mean, in the previous fund as VCAs, there was a comments box, and I know for everybody I gave a red card or even a yellow card to. I put some commentary in there to say this is a reason why.
Yes, exactly. In the last fund, basically the only mandatory rationale was if you flagged the general criteria. So in that case, you had to provide an explanation for that. But for the other criteria that were in the last fund, like, I don't know, incomplete reading or something like that, you didn't have to provide a rationale. So, and this time it will be more easier, a bit simpler, because there are a lot of assessments to be reviewed. So we didn't provide a way to provide a rationale.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, can I ask one more question? I'm actually on holiday with my family, so I need to drop because I'm supposed to be going for dinner, and they will kill me if I don't leave now. I've just had a look through the slides. That there's a lot of information about excellent and good. I think collectively we need to understand what we mean by filtered out. So the obvious ones, profanity and abusive language. But in the previous fund, we saw poorly written assessments, which were not given a red or yellow card or were not given a red card or a yellow card last time, because they were deemed acceptable, but it might just have been pretty rubbish reviews. So one or two sentences. So I don't know. It's probably as you get through the next few slides, I'll catch up on the watching the video later. But there's nothing in there which kind of tells me what filtered out means.
Well, there's, I mean, the guidance on the filtered out steps haven't really changed so much since last time, right? And there is a level of common sense that needs to be applied. Like, if it is one or two really strong lines, well, two, I don't think anybody would be able to give a decent rationale as a CA in one sentence. But if it's a strong couple of lines and you're confident that it sort of warrants being considered good, then that's your subjective opinion to be able to flag that, right? If you don't think that it's if you think it's substandard or it's underrepresented the proposal in and of itself, you can filter it out. I think the hardest part to have been able to pin down with the community is what does good and excellent look like, and then if it doesn't meet the measures of good and excellent, then it should be filtered out.
Well, the way that I see it from a business standpoint, and we're using funds of the community, and is this the best use of funds of the community? If the proposals don't have their stuff together well tied up, shows an indication of how they prepared for the show. So if that was my money, I wouldn't put it there.
That's fine,
So
but
that's
as part of this process, we're not assessing the proposal, we are assessing the assessment. So is the assessment good or bad?
Yeah.
And
exactly
Chris, just to in the slides, it's slightly different from what you said. I think further down in the slides it says you effectively look for things that are excellent and filtered out. If it's not one of those, then automatically it must be good. So we're kind of going black and white. We're looking for excellent and filtered out, and then if it's not, you can't fit it into one of those categories. You have to mark it as good. Whereas I think you said you need to be choosing between. So I think that I'm just saying that there's a few of us on this call. There'll be a few more on the Saturday call. We'll probably get lots of questions as we go through the next few days.
Yeah, actually, this is only the mechanism to decide if we have like some, for example, we don't have a consensus we have different VCAs giving different scores. Then we have those rules to decide if an assessment is going to be categorized as excellent, good, or filtered out. But when you are a VCA doing your own review about an assessment, you are just comparing, you're just reviewing the assessment to decide if it's excellent or good based on the criteria that is described there on those tables that Chris is going to talk about in a bit. And if it's not even good, then you say that it should be filtered out. And all that mechanism to decide the consensus of all the VCA's decision is going to be run in the background.
Okay, got it. I think definitely some learnings coming up in the next 7 to 10 days. Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy your holiday.
Later. Thank you. It's been a lovely holiday, CAing every evening.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
So just one correcting myself before we move on. Here in the last point, someone correctly pointed this out that you not necessarily have to have received rewards here. You just had to be eligible to receiving them. For example, before we used the lottery system to reward only 3 CAs per proposal. So if you've done only one assessment, for example, and you've not been raffled, you've not received any rewards, but you were eligible to receive them, you still can be a VCA in the next funds. So just a small correction here. We are going to adjust these slides for the next sessions. And thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, so talking about the rewards themselves, about the VCA's rewards now. 1% of all the fund budget is distributed among the VCAs for their work. And currently this value is $41,500. And the rewards are distributed proportionally to the number of reviews made by each VCA. So doing some calculations, for example, now in Fund 6, we've got 711 proposals. And supposing that each one of them receives 5 assessments, we have 3,555 assessments total. And if we want 3 reviews per assessment, I would say this is the ideal goal. The minimum number of reviews per assessment, I'm not sure if you are going to have this number, but that's the goal at least. Then we would have over 10,000 reviews. And each review would receive approximately almost $4. And this number is lower than the CA reward, you would say, and it really is. But also, I think that the effort here is also much lower because you can take half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours to assess a proposal. But just to review an assessment, it's much quicker than really assessing the proposal itself. So maybe if we after this QA phase, we think that this number is too low, we can give this feedback to IOG and to the community, and maybe this can be adjusted in the future, but I'm not sure if that's what it's going to be the case. But anyways, what does it mean to review an assessment? It's basically just to read it and check if it makes sense to the proposal, if it's related to the proposal, and classify them as excellent, good, or filtered out. And this is done by reading the assessments and using these 5 criteria here. So the first one is the CA contemplation of their own ability to assess a proposal. Second one is the CA scoring against the challenge criteria. Third one is CA opinion on the proposal overall. Fourth, accountability to the Cardano community. And the last one is the positive feedback loops. I will ask Chris to talk about a little bit more after some slides here, because right just before that, yeah, thanks Chris. Just before that, this is what Navid was talking about when he mentioned that we were looking for excellent or filtered out assessments, but this is actually the mechanism to choose or to define if an assessment is going to be excellent, good, or filtered out. So the rules here are, if an assessment receives more than 50% of excellent tags or excellent rankings by the VCAs, then it will be an excellent assessment. If it receives at least 50% of the VCA reviews as filtered out, then the assessment is going to be filtered out. And if it's not going to be excellent or filtered out, then it's going to be a good assessment. So this is not so clear how this would work in practice, but it's easier to check these examples here. So if we have 2 excellent and 1 good reviews by the VCAs, then the outcome is an excellent assessment. If we have 1 excellent, 1 good, then outcome is good. 1 excellent, 1 filtered out, then the outcome is filtered out. 1 good, 1 filtered out, then the outcome is filtered out again. In this case, when we have 1 excellent, 1 good, and 1 filtered out, for example, we don't have at least more than 50% excellent. We don't have at least 50% filtered out, then the outcome is good. But if we have 1 excellent, 1 good, and 2 filtered out, in this case, the filtered out is exactly 50%, then the outcome is filtered out. So this is just the mechanism that the scripts that are going to run in the background after all the QA phase ends, how they will choose, how do we categorize each of the assessments. Yes, so now, Chris.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to pick up on these definitions, and I feel like it will be useful as a discussion sort of format. So if I talk through these, if there's any questions that you want to, or points of view that you want to interject with, then feel free. So yeah, going back to the first of the 5 areas, this is the idea that CAs should be able to, they should be able to assess what their capability is to be able to assess the proposal in the first place. So as Rodrigo and I was sort of talking at the start of this session, you know, we all get to come to the table with a lot of different expertise and backgrounds. Some of us are professional, some of us are more sort of enthusiast and hobbyist, and maybe looking to become professional, who knows, but in all different domains of knowledge. But there's, of course, other domains of knowledge that maybe you're less au fait with, yet less experienced, or have very minimal exposure to it at all. And that's, I think, a good sort of starting point for a VCA and a CA to sort of rest upon, like how capable is the CA to make that proposal, and has the CA in their feedback been able to identify what their strengths and their weaknesses are. That is, if the CA has been able to do that succinctly, or possibly, you know, in their rationale and description, maybe slightly less succinctly. But so long as they've done that, and their assertions are making a strong, sort of based and sound judgment, and you know what they're not so comfortable with, they're able to identify that, then that should be fair enough to be considered as excellent. Quite often what you see with these sorts of reviews is that people can make very sweeping statements, or very, very generalist assumptions or assertions around a proposal, and I think it's the VCA's role to be able to pick that out. So I'm just reading Tommy's comment as well. If the CA hasn't provided that clarity, but you know, or they haven't provided comprehensively, they haven't been able to pick out what their core strengths are, then it doesn't necessarily mean it should be totally filtered out. It just might mean that it's not going to meet the measure of success for excellence, right? Yeah, okay, so I'm quite conscious of being able to answer people's questions. So Tommy, you're making a point that, oh, sorry, not an assumption, basically. Okay. So it says here, maybe you can explain this further. For CAs, is there really the expectation in that their reviews, they say their background? Well, look at it like this. If you're an engineer and you come with technical know-how and knowledge about how projects are put together, then you should be able to comment clearly that you understand why their project planning and their methodology for being able to develop this project makes sense to you or not, right? If someone comes maybe from more of a business background or marketing, then them being able to qualify whether the plans to deliver some sort of technical project are appropriate, that becomes a little harder to do unless they're able to qualify, why they're in a position to be able to do so, right? Similarly, someone that's, been coding for the last 10 years or something, maybe hasn't worked in these sorts of community engagement roles, where there's great ideas around projects for building awareness and marketing, then maybe they should be able to recognize that the channels in which the project's going to look to explore isn't something they've been so exposed to. Whereas, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to review the proposal. They just need to be, be clear that their opinion and their feedback, whilst constructive and hopefully helpful, is based on more an intuition, being more intuitive and subjective, as opposed to objective and understanding the domain in which they're commenting on. Does that sort of answer that question? Just to come to Corin's, can you still be excellent if you state that you don't have domain expertise, but still have an opinion on a project? Yeah, I mean, this is it. I think you need to be able to be, the CA needs to be able to be clear that what they're commenting on in this, for this criterion, and there are only 3 criteria in which we're asking people to assess, obviously, they should be able to clarify which of those parts of the criteria and the content that's written that they're comfortable and they have a good understanding of. You can be excellent if you don't have that domain expertise, because you've been able to clarify that you don't have said expertise in one particular aspect of the proposal, but maybe there's other aspects of it that you are. If you're coming at it with no expertise across any of the domains that's being articulated in the proposal, then, or described in the proposal, should I say, then you should be able to let the proposer, at the very least, know that that's what you're coming to the table with, right? Because this feedback isn't just for the VCA to make a decision on whether it's excellent or good or needs to be filtered out. Ultimately, your rationale is what's going back to the proposer to hopefully provide them feedback and helpful coaching, which is another point that we're going to be talking about in a while. They're going to be reading that. So if you're just making sweeping statements without any clarity or qualification as a CA, as to why you're in a position to be able to make that statement, and then then the feedback needs to be useful to the proposer as much as it is for the VCA who's trying to determine whether this is excellent or good. Okay, I think we've.
I think Danny would like to comment something.
Yeah, go on, Danny.
Yeah, just to play the devil's advocate, and I'm building on what the Jay asked earlier. So how do we expect the VCAs to determine whether the qualification of the CA is legit in what they're saying, if they're saying any background? Like if I am reviewing somebody else's assessment and they're saying like, oh, well, I've been coding for 100 years, like how do I know when everything is anon, right? So like what value can be actually attached to people's expertise claims in the CA's assessments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really good point. Yeah, and it's worthwhile playing devil's advocate and challenging the process, right? I think this comes back down to the values of what Catalyst is all about, which is, you know, there's a spirit of collaboration, there's a spirit of accountability, and exactly, Tommy, integrity. Integrity is absolutely key to all of this. If you're not being authentic, or you're not being able to take this seriously, it's just a money grab, right? It might work for a round or two, but let's be honest, it's going to come out in the wash. It's not going to be a sustainable thing for you to do, whether you're a CA, a proposer, or otherwise, right? So I think most of us come to this table with a pretty good understanding of what's required. And I think, you know, what we're going to find as we go through cycles is, I'd like to think that we'll be able to tease out and be alerted to sort of bad acting behavior. So, you know, to come back to like, how do we expect people to sort of operate and act in this way? You know, I don't think it's a hard task to say, listen, I've been working in X for this amount of time. You don't have to give a bio on yourself in every single CA review. No, neither the VCA nor the proposer wants to read that. But you know, being able to qualify what your assertions are based on, like I'd be very comfortable in talking and diving into the weeds of people's business models and their approach to structuring plans and stuff like that. I know I can do that confidently. So what does everybody else bring to the table? That's what I think just needs to be clarified very succinctly in a good CA or in an excellent CA review, not a good, in an excellent CA review.
Yeah, JP.
Yeah, so sorry, I guess my issue here is that what you're talking about, Chris, is really should be addressed at the CA level. So I think what I'm struggling with is that you're expecting, or what I'm hearing is there's an expectation that VCAs are putting a value judgment on whether the CA is able to vote. And I'll tell you, like, I've done 20 reviews so far, and not a single one did I give background about who I am and my professional experience. And nowhere in the CA process is that expected. So that's number one. And number two is I push back on the argument that, oh, you need to have the technical expertise to view the proposal. No, hold on. I just want to say, no, not the technical expertise, but like, maybe you shouldn't comment on things that you don't have the technical expertise. But my question then to you is that if we have over 10,000 reviews of assessments or over 700 proposals, and we're saying that you're not allowed to review a proposal, or you have to admit your shortcomings in each of the categories that you're reviewing, then to me, that kind of undermines the entire process of objectivity, of putting many different eyes from many different backgrounds on a proposal to make sure that there is the level of accessibility to people who aren't in that field. Because somebody who's in that field, you're right, maybe they have value in adding to one part of the proposal, but maybe they have bad habits, they don't like a certain, approach that the people are taking, and they have their own views, so that could skew their vision. So I would almost challenge you that expertise could be a detriment to what we're trying to achieve here. So I just want to put that out there, because I didn't do it in my proposal, so I'm worried I'm going to be, not getting the value for the time that put in. And another thing that I would challenge, that if we pull it, or if we go to the logical end of what you're proposing, then we're really saying that most CAs don't have the wherewithal to review 90% of the.
I mean, you put across some good points, but I don't think there's any expectation that if you're you don't need to have deep domain expertise to be able to comment on a proposal in Catalyst. Let me be really, really clear, right? But you should be, if something is totally wildly out of your scope and sphere of experience, then there are enough proposals to move on and assess something else. I think there has to be a common sense approach. Now, in terms of like it hasn't been communicated that this is what's expected, it is in the community advisors assessment guide as of this fund. So for Fund 6, this is what's in the guidance. It's not just an input-output. Oh, it's not only an input-output contribution. It's been kicked around the community to get input and to refine it so that it is digestible and understandable for people to pick up and use. The point that you make in terms of like being objective and having sort of an intuition, whether the skill set is a benefit or a hindrance. Like if you're just making a judgment on whether or not you think it's just a good idea, but you have there's nothing that you're qualifying around that other than words that they put on the page and the metrics and the return on intention, and you've just got a good feeling about that, then I think that's fair enough to be able to say, right? If you're going on your instincts and you're going on your intuition because you like the shtick of the proposal, then that's fine. But why not qualify it with saying, hey, I don't know whether this is technically feasible or whatever, because it's not something I've experienced. You don't need to write chapter and verse to be as a CA to be able to qualify that. And as I said, from the VCA's perspective, it's just to identify in this instance whether or not the CA has been able to do that. Because otherwise, you put yourself in the position of the proposer. You've got someone reviewing your proposal that you've put blood, sweat, and tears into producing. It's not taking you an hour. It's taking you probably some days, maybe many man days if there's a number of people working on it. If 5 people review that and every single one of them is just providing some off the cuff, constructive feedback, but not steeped with any domain expertise, then as an assessor, as a proposer, not that you'd necessarily know that, but you come away from it feeling like it's been maybe not the fairest of processes. Whereas if the CAs can be open as to what they're skillful in, and where there is less skill there, that their opinions in a review are more subjective, I think that covers both the proposer's needs and also, hopefully helps to improve the domain knowledge of the people that are actually doing the reviews. I mean, and to your last point, do we think that the Catalyst community has the skill set? Of course we do. Of course we have the skill set, and it's only going to grow. But what's also going to grow is the caliber of people that are coming to this table, such as proposers, CAs, and VCAs, as people go through the process more than once.
Yeah. So just to that point, I won't take up too much more time, but just to that point, I think I see a benefit in people who don't have the knowledge base and the technical expertise to point out things that people too steeped in the middle of it maybe don't see from an outsider's perspective, which is every voter for the most part. And the second thing is that
and I agree
I would much rather we focus on the integrity and the value of the review and like what it points out about the problem and the problem that's presented, as opposed to me having to say, okay, well, I have the skills to do this and to tell you this. And so I'm just when you said it, as you can tell, it kind of triggered me to go down this road. And I just kind of want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. It's the quality that we're looking for, not necessarily that I am a programmer.
Exactly. So, and that's actually why there's 4 other focus areas for VCAs to take on board, and for CAs to also contemplate when they're doing their job, right? Like I totally agree with you. You know, the bringing other perspectives to the table to these reviews is entirely needed, entirely, and it shouldn't just be steeped in technical, you know, programming domain expertise. That's totally counterintuitive, partly because there's so many challenges and proposals that have nothing to do with actually, you know, writing a line of code. But you know, the point is to, and to your point, just highlight it, highlight what's you know, more of an intuition. That's all we're asking for. And on that, I think we should move to the next focus area. Okay, so there, scoring against challenge criteria. And I think here's the point, right? Rather than this being a box ticking exercise across the whole VCA and CA process, it's about being able to be accountable for what you're contributing. So, you know, in the CA's point of perspective, we're asking them that they're providing a defendable justification to support their scoring. So advisor justification for scoring clearly highlights specific content that's being assessed, and their feedback gives confidence to the reader, both whether it's the proposer or the VCA, that the entire proposal has been considered, and it's been on a sound analysis of that information that's been provided. Right. So if that's being really strongly and clearly rationalized in the CA's feedback, and the scoring kind of supports that, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be thinking that's beginning to feel like an excellent effort at that focus, right? And if they're and I guess that, you know, when we're thinking about excellent, good, and filtered out, because obviously you've got to sum down to one, right? When you're looking at the picture as a whole, you've got to make a judgment. And this is where there's a more subjectivity that comes down to it, particularly if you've got less domain expertise in whatever particular subject it is that you're reviewing, right? And then, yeah, so from the VCA's perspective, if they've made a reasonable attempt to justify the scoring, but there's, you know, a generality to it, or it's unclear and ambiguous, if you feel that they've made a reasonable attempt to it, then it's good, right? Has anybody got any ideas on this that they want to just touch on? Okay. So the next focus point is the CA's opinion. Where are we? I think it's CA's opinion on the overall proposal.
Well, I actually have one question.
Oh, please.
Can you go back to that?
Yeah, so here we go.
The previous one. Yeah, so what if you have like an excellent proposal and it's submitted in wrong challenge?
I mean, if it's an excellent proposal submitted to the wrong challenge, it's not going to be, it shouldn't be voted for. Well, actually, that's a good point. I don't even have an excellent proposal or an excellent review?
Yeah, so basically, okay, if you have an excellent proposal, it's in the wrong challenge, and the CA has rated it high, then, or maybe the first criteria has rated that high, the impact, then that's actually not correct.
Yeah, I mean, if the proposal's in the wrong challenge, that's something to flag with Marek, Danny, and myself, right? So we can look into it and whether it was. I mean, it sounds like it would have been submitted through IdeaScale incorrectly. Sorry, Alex. I think that's not one for this conversation, but essentially the answer should be, I would imagine, that if it's being voted for by the community in the wrong challenge, then it's unlikely to get voted highly. I'm not sure what the the line on whether or not the CA should be reviewing it as excellent in that instance, I would imagine they should be thinking about trying to flag it.
Yeah, the approach I've taken as a CA is that I like reduce 1 star for that and I make a note of it. Or
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. I mean, I would say in those instances, let the Catalyst team know, because it's useful for us to understand what's happened there. Whether it was some sort of human error on the side of the proposer or otherwise, right? That's kind of important.
There's too many to bother you guys with those.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's in the wrong category entirely, I would expect a CA to reflect on that.
Yeah, I just think in what I was doing, I just put a 1 because I said, how am I supposed to know if it meets the challenge if it's the wrong challenge?
I mean, it doesn't meet the challenge in that instance, does it? So.
Yeah, okay, move on.
Okay, shall we move to the next slide? Opinion on the proposal overall. So again, you know, this kind of isn't just an expansion of the last criteria, right? Or the last focus point. You're first of all looking at whether or not the proposal does meet the challenge. If it doesn't meet the challenge, then your feedback as a CA should reflect that. If it does, then great. And then you're looking at this focus areas on the proposal overall. So you're taking a view in the main as a VCA as to whether or not you feel like the CA's review is clear enough and demonstrates that they have a good understanding of the proposer or project's objectives relative to the challenger's objectives. If that's clear, and it's, you know, I don't think anybody's expecting there to be paragraphs and paragraphs of CA feedback per proposal. Far from it. You don't have the time or the resources to be able to do that. But if it's clear and unambiguous and it demonstrates that they have a strong grasp, great, it should be excellent. If it's not that and it doesn't meet a filtered out criteria or ready for flagging, then chances are it's going to provide a good understanding, maybe a basic understanding, but there's something about it that just kind of lacks for the VCA, right? Something about it. This is where the subjectivity, the intuition, and in some respects, objectivity needs to come in. But you know, there's a human aspect to this. You're looking at this for probably one of the first times. You've got to give an opinion. You've got a limited amount of time in which to do this review because you want to get on to the next one or you want to finish the job. Does anybody want to raise any questions or points here?
Yeah, maybe I just wanted to say, what do you think if there will be like for both for CAs and the VCAs, something like a minimal number of reviews to be made and maybe maximum number, or there are like no limits to do it?
I mean, at the moment we're looking at different processes to put into place that helps, yeah, no review go unturned. I wouldn't say we're quite there yet, because there's obviously there's no shared state of truth yet. So I know that's not directly answering your question, Andre, but if that was Andre, sorry, it's not. But you know, we're looking at ways in which we're able to help VCAs to understand which of those proposals that have been reviewed don't have any QA on those reviews. Okay, so this very much comes down to, you know, the heart of what we're aiming to achieve within Catalyst, which is accountability, right? proposers should be identifying what metrics they're going to put in place to their projects. And CAs should be able to, as it says here, identify how the proposing team will audit their positive return on intention. And, oh, am I? Okay, I don't know why. Is that better? Can you tell me whether I'm cutting out? Yeah, comes and goes, but yes. Okay, maybe I'll just bring that close to my mouth. Hopefully that's better. New gear, what can I say? It'll be better next week. Hopefully that's better. Okay, good. Yeah, so CA can clearly identify the proposing team will audit their positive return on intention. The scoring is backed up with supporting rationale, whether they agree or respectfully disagree about the plans and the budget and how they offer value for money that's appropriate to deliver the project's intentions. So, coming back to the point of our colleague earlier on that, was talking about, he's looking at things from the perspective of value for money. This is a great part of where a great point in time where you're able to make that qualification, right? Where the way that the proposer is intending on spending the money is in your mind appropriate as a CA. For the VCA, you're looking to see whether that's reflected on the page. Where we're looking for you to be able to identify whether or not there is a clarity between how the score is looking and how that's been provided by the CA, and whether or not that seems to be reflected in clear accountability metrics that are feasible to be able to be at least collected. Whether they're going to show great growth and success of the project or otherwise, it's more about the approach to going about collecting these sorts of key metrics and KPIs and the objectives that you're trying to achieve. So yeah, the VCA is really looking at whether or not the CA has been able to reflect that they have been able to identify these points. And again, that shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 lines, I think, if it's clear and succinct. Other people might go to town and write, a paragraph on it. Again, if it's not got that clarity, or there's some ambiguity to it, or yeah, there are gaps in the CA's feedback, then I, as a VCA who's going through this process time and time again, you should be able to see whether there are gaps emerging in some of the CA's commentaries. Anybody got any thoughts on this? No, it doesn't seem like it. Okay, what's next? Positive feedback loops. Yeah, finally, positive feedback loops. Yeah, so what we're really looking for CAs to be able to provide is constructive feedback, right? That, isn't hopefully harsh, is useful, that the proposer is able to take away as a positive, as a positive experience. So the definition of excellence in this instance is actionable coaching points provided to guide the proposer about what is and isn't strong about the proposal, or what can be improved to become a more compelling proposal in the future. And this might be linked back to the domain expertise, right? I appreciate the colleague that was on the call earlier on that was saying that he hasn't qualified, his experience and whatnot, but then, for the proposer, when they read the feedback that's being provided, even there, if there's good guiding principles and the action points seem quite sound, it still might leave a question mark in that proposer's mind as to whether or not that person actually knows what they're talking about. And again, it's difficult to be able to qualify that in a review, when the CAs aren't known to the community, and it's anonymous, but at least it's something to go on. And again, the VCA is there to qualify whether or not the CA has done this, not whether or not the CA has the skills. Has the CA been able to clarify what points that they're likely to be strong on, or what they're not likely to be strong on? And then does this reflect back in the actionable coaching points and constructive feedback that they're providing the proposer? Because ultimately this review is about providing feedback, and it's not just scoring 1 to 5 and then not providing any rationale and feedback that supports and helps the proposer for next time, right? That's entirely what this is about. So maybe one of the things that I can take away from this call, first of all, is we can maybe reorder this table, and it might make the narrative of how we're trying to develop this a bit clearer to CAs and VCAs. I'm sorry, I'm just stream of consciousness. Apologies, it's quite late. So yeah, in terms of excellent and good, there might be actionable feedback, or that it's lacking clarity, or it doesn't seem to be considered so carefully so as to be useful to the proposer. If there's feedback and about the strengths and weaknesses of the proposal, but there isn't those sorts of coaching points, then I would consider that good. If it's particularly harsh or it's super lacking information, then you might think that this is an aspect that you would consider to be filtered out. But if they are providing some feedback as to what was good and what wasn't so good about the proposal, then that's the bare minimum, right? Doesn't mean necessarily it should be filtered out. It's just that's the minimum benchmark for what's expected of a CA. And the VCA's role is to identify, has there been enough coaching that's been provided, or is there any coaching at all? And if there isn't, but there's feedback on strengths and weaknesses, then it's good. Yeah, that's a really good point, Tommy. And I do want to address that, because this isn't about a box ticking exercise. It's about taking this whole process in the whole, right? Those VCAs, those CAs that are going to be getting excellent reviews, chances are it's something that kind of comes over time, or that are repeatedly getting excellent reviews. It's something that kind of comes over time. Everybody's going to get better at this process while the more that they do it. And that sort of applies to the VCA taking a view of these CA reviews in the main, in the whole, right? Of course, you're looking to see whether the proposal is addressing the challenge that it's being set, that's been set. Has it got clear metrics that seem, achievable in terms of how they're going to be captured and collected? And does it have reasonable plans about how the money's going to be spent and what it's going to deliver, right? You're looking at this proposal in the whole anyway, even if you're scoring 1 to 5 against different criteria, right? Your mindset around whether or not you as community advisors and voters around a particular proposal is built on the sum of the parts, right? So yes, you are scoring as a CA against set criteria, but you're still looking at the project in the whole. And again, I think that's where VCAs also need to take that point, is that you're looking at this in the whole, even if there are these sorts of specific focus areas, but it's not a box ticking exercise. So you need to be able to determine whether or not you feel in the main, this is an excellent proposal. Or an excellent review of a proposal, excuse me, or whether it's less excellent and more weighted towards good. You have to use your judgment and your experience, having gone through this process hopefully multiple times, that, you know, and even if you're new to this, you're going through this process. The first time you do it, you're probably not going to be as confident as the second, third, fourth, and fifth time, right? It's a cumulative and formative approach, and the formative approach to your opinion as to whether this is excellent or good comes when you're looking at this in the main, not necessarily just criteria by criteria. I hope that is somewhat clear. I know that there's probably a lot of thoughts and feelings to sort of digest, and you know, this is why it isn't a box ticking exercise, because there are quite a lot of different opinions to how to approach this. But I think if you come at it that, you know, how much is the feedback useful to the proposer, and the job of the feedback isn't to just clarify whether or not they should be paid more or not for the CA should be paid more or not for the work that they've done. It's really about how useful is this to the proposer, and how fair is it on the proposer in terms of the scores and the feedback they're receiving. Does anybody want to pick up? I feel like I've been talking for ages to myself.
Yeah, I think it's good that I'm learning here as well, because since these rules are changing, I think everyone, even the VCAs, they are going to be like first-time VCAs with this new set of rules. So it's everyone learning at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, Victor, I want to ask your opinion. I mean, given that some of it is quite subjective, intuitive, how do you feel about how the changes have been made now that we've had like a few weeks to kind of begin to get comfortable with it?
Yeah, I think it's a positive change. I think this is better than what we had before. But I agree with some of the aspects now, thinking a little bit more, a little bit deeper about those first ones here. For example, this one, I think there's some adjustment that could be made, because at the same time, I think that this is important. But how do we, as Danny mentioned, I think, how can we actually guarantee that what the CA is telling in his assessment is true or not? I think this is something that should not like really be stated there, but something that the VCA should realize by reading the assessment. If what the CA is talking or has written makes sense in the context of this ecosystem of this industry, then this is something that the VCA is going to realize, to check. Not necessarily some description about the CA background, because this could also not be good in relation to the CA anonymity in the process. But yeah, but
yeah,
overall,
I
think
don't.
it's
Yeah,
yeah.
I just want to come back to this. I don't think it's about a CA providing a description of their background experience, right, and a pre-qualifying statement about what they're expert on or not, right? That's not how I see this. But I do think it's important to be able to qualify whether or not you know something about an area that you're going to give an opinion on or not, because otherwise, you know, how does the proposer know what that opinion that they're reading and how it's been scored is based on? And ultimately, you know, that opinion influences voters, right? So, you know, I think it's also important for voters to understand, as it says there, should learn something. Voters and proposers should learn something new and get new insight. I mean, if there's no qualification of what the CA's you know, expertise is, or what they feel more strongly and comfortable about commenting on, then again, yeah, I come back to that. How does the voter or proposer, or how is it a hindrance to influence the voter in that way? Yeah.
Yeah.
if I can add something, probably it will be good for the next fund to provide some examples, because I think that probably some of the criteria, for example, the feedback loop, is it's a way to show your expertise. So probably seeing this definition in this way, it's something. It's a bit strange, and you are like you tend to write as a developer. I think this, and it's not really the goal, I think. So maybe provide some examples about that can be really useful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think what we'll have in a matter of weeks, right? Well, actually, you know, in less than that, we can start pulling that data together to see how well it's been actually accomplished within the 4,500 and growing proposal reviews, right? So we should be able to see some of these clear examples come together within the next couple of weeks, for sure. And again, we can kick some of those around the community. Obviously, we'd be looking to get the CA's approval that we can use their review as an example. But yeah, as I said, I think it's important that there's a coherence to this set of focuses and values that we're trying to imbue into the community, which is integrity, authenticity, trust. You know, if I can't, you know, I get Danny's point that, you know, how do we actually prove that someone has that domain expertise? But that's what we've got to do. We've got to trust it, right? But we build trust by having an understanding. If we don't have an understanding, then it's difficult. I think it's less difficult. It's less easy to build that trust.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is that also we need to think about how to scale it, right? In a way that you can actually scale that trust. And I can totally see a way where, you know, a CA could just add a couple of words or sentence into like these proposals, and then it just achieves that tick boxing, right? That like, okay, he mentioned in a sentence that he has an experience, but like, how do we scale that on a mass scale where people will try to game these things, you know, when we get very serious about the money and we get all those, you know, professional services peaking at the Catalyst, that it's, you know, I think we can maintain that level of trust at certain size and at a certain like cohesion of the community. And it's great to signal those kind of like virtues as we're growing. But you know, I would tend to say that we need to find some really robust mechanisms that can actually hold like those adversaries at bay, because that's a lot to go through. And again, we're then placing back a judgment call on the VCA to say whether that person actually finds it legitimate, you know, within the excellent. And on the other side of the things, you know, it's not to say that it's a bad review, right? We're just trying to figure out like what separates between good and excellent. So like, it also, I think, helps to look at it from the perspective that it's not filtered out, that it's good, that it's acceptable. But like, you know, then we're just trying to pinch a little bit further to find, okay, what is really like top of the shelf review. And again, as we are doing this for the first time, we're going to get a couple of examples, hopefully, out of that 4,000, as you mentioned, that we can then sort of like put on display and put something like an aspiration towards that all the other CAs can look at. But yeah, it's an iterative process.
There's something I think also about the perception, and you know, I'm making a leap here, but I wouldn't want anybody to think that good actually means bad, and that excellence actually just the baseline, right?
Yeah, that's important, I think, because I think the way how we're communicating it just slightly bit, there might be some, because not everyone will actually rewatch these let's say these seminars. So like, as how it conveys through the written form, I think that's important point you're making.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a real good point to take on board. We will adapt the assessment guide so that it's really clear that good means good, and that excellent means excellent, and that good doesn't mean bad. Good is not bad. It's about, you know, the CAs are putting their time and effort into doing this, and so long as it isn't, you know, meeting the flags of what should be filtered out or not, then it's a good review. It's just when you go above and beyond what you know you would deem to be a kind of a baseline, then if you're providing a lot of input, really valuable insight, and then that's what should be considered as excellent, right? Is, you know, good is good. So otherwise we get into the realms of, okay, there's excellent, there's good, there's kind of good, sort of average.
I think the idea when the words excellent and good were chosen was to remove the only okay assessments, right? Because they were not really contributing that much to the process. They were too superficial, right? So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, and that's exactly it. And if there's a lot of superficiality to this, then I think, you know, VCAs have the carte blanche to be able to say whether or not it's really good, actually good, or actually it might need to be filtered out. Maybe through the process of what we're going to find over the next few funds is that you guys as VCAs start being able to create the right definitions for what good is and what excellent is, right? I mean, it's your hard work in this process and your judgments that's helping to grow this process. So, you know, it is iterative, and it is to remove some of the superficiality, and it's certainly to remove you know, approaches which are just copy, cut, and paste. Yeah, let me, I mean, if I can give you an example, right, from a previous life. I had a funding competition that I ran that had many hundreds of applications, and what I saw in it was, you know, on maybe half a dozen occasions, like 5 occasions, not 6, 5, where certain criteria for this technology funding application and proposal across all 5 was verbatim copy, cut, and paste, where most likely the proposers had contracted a grant writer to work with them, and the grant writer was lazy, and they didn't expect that there was going to be someone that was going to, you know, pick up on the fact that they were doing this, because there's so many proposals, so many reviewers. So, you know, we're trying to just remove some of the conditions that allow for that to happen. The VCA role is really key to that. If you see things that are out of place, then it's your position, your role to be able to bring that to the attention of both proposers and obviously the team and CATA's community as a whole.
yeah, JP.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to just jump in. So I totally am on board with what you're saying, Chris, and my excitement earlier wasn't in any way a shutdown of what's going on, because I think this is awesome. But I think maybe putting that other slide first about the CA, I think that is a better message to be your front-facing message. And then the second one about that you had about the domain-specific knowledge, I think maybe a better way to phrase it is around having that the CA was able to, shows that they were able to understand, engage with, and respond to the information in the proposal. So it's less that I need to have the domain experience, but I can give a perspective based on what they've said on whether it sounds good, you know, whether they've laid it out in a way that's clear. Like those types of things that I would find more valuable per se than necessarily the CA having domain experience for the reasons explained earlier. So just a messaging thing.
Okay. I mean, it's certainly taken on board, and if there's specific language that you feel comfortable with and you want to share it with me, then yeah, we can look at that. And I wouldn't say we're going to totally rework this time around. I mean, some of the process is almost almost over, but yeah, as Danny said, we should definitely run a retrospective, and we do have a retrospective week planned where we can look at all of these factors and learn from it, and then change things where appropriate and necessary. I mean, you know, I would challenge. So, Corin, you said that you feel like it's the role of the CA to be able to help the cream rise to the top, right? And I totally I'm on board with that. I think what's really pertinent to obviously understand is that you all have domain expertise, and you all bring domain expertise in all different walks of life and fields, right? Now, it might not be like for like, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. In no way does it say in the point about your ability to be able to comment on and provide opinion on things based on domain expertise. It doesn't say if you have no domain expertise, you can't you can't produce an excellent review. It just means that you need to be clear, right? You just need to be clarifying that this isn't my background, but this is how I see it.
I guess as we're working with the CA tool, and as a team, we're looking at the challenges that are lacking, and we're really trying to smash through them to get as many assessments per proposal. And yeah, we're perhaps not having the expertise, but still reading a proposal, you can see like the quality of it and the amount of effort that's gone in, even if you don't understand the deep technical parts.
Absolutely.
And still like quality feedback.
And listen, that all you need to say is that I'm not a programmer, so you know my opinion is based on my intuition. And then you know, if you're writing an excellent review, you know, if we just take that point around your domain expertise out of the equation, an excellent review really is about providing justification and supporting rationale for why you're giving that opinion. So being able to tack onto that, oh, I'm not a coder, or I haven't built any blockchain applications because, you know, I've never studied computer science. You know, I don't think it's a stretch to expect that as a proposer to see in the information that I get back from my CA reviews.
Cool.
Maybe that even makes sense to. Sorry, Corinne.
Oh, it's a wonderful thing to be involved with and bringing heaps to me. I love it.
I'm really pleased. You know, I think everybody gets something out of it, right? Every single person, which is awesome.
Danny, you were going to say something.
Yeah, what was it? It's late, but yeah, I think we can also like think about it, framing it from the perspective of like, yeah, so like explain in your review what perspective are you bringing in, right? And that's essentially translates to your domain expertise. So it doesn't sound as you know, as high profile, like you need to have a PhD in something, like saying like, okay, you know, coming from this and this background, this seems this and so, right? And that can be already like a basis for some of these assessments.
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, exactly, Danny. The way it's framed in terms of this, what perspective do you bring? Everybody brings their own unique perspectives, and everybody's got their own backgrounds and abilities. It does, yeah, and maybe it's worded in a way that makes maybe feels a bit off-putting. because we're dealing with very complex we're dealing with technological complexity, and obviously there's only a certain amount of us that participating in the community that have these technical competencies. I don't I don't program, but I can definitely look at a good project proposal and understand how it's put together, even if it's very nerdy and technical, for sure. But then that's my background. Someone else has got a different sort of perspective and point of view. But if we're not like open about it, then again, put yourself in the shoes of the proposer who spent weeks putting together a proposal, and then they get mediocre marks, or they get reasonable marks, not enough to get funded, and they're looking at their review, they're a little bit disappointed and frustrated with the situation. And what we want, the outcome that we want at that point, is they think, I'm going to give this another go, and I'm going to take on board these people's feedback because they've got a point, rather than, which is another outcome that happens quite often, I'm reading the reviewers' feedback and they just don't like me, or they don't know what they're talking about. And that's not the outcome that we want to produce. We want to produce a confidence that there's something worth going for, worth striving for, and it's worthwhile going again, even if you weren't successful this time around.
I've been listening to the feedback, and maybe in the form for the CAs, we can put the same way that you have a rating of stars of or excellent, good, or not acceptable, and flag it a rating of stars of knowledge, of prior knowledge on the subject. So what's your knowledge of this? My knowledge is a 3 or a 2 or a 5, or I have no knowledge, but after reviewing this in the comment section, it makes sense to me as with an input. So that way, that can give the VCAs a parameter. Okay, this is a 3-star general, not a 5-star general, right? So
I understand. That's actually a really interesting point, one that we hadn't thought about, helping someone to sort of self-determine where they sit on their level of knowledge. But again, I don't think the domain expertise is the only thing that we need to rest upon, right? Like it's certainly not the showstopper for anybody to be able to contribute as a CA. It really isn't.
I have no shame being a beginner.
Absolutely, exactly. It's all a learning process. Everybody comes into this with a baseline, and then hopefully through iteration and participation and just continuing to do it, we all learn something new.
Yep, and I think we are reaching the end here. So here are some resources. These first ones are for CAs. So since we are evaluating the CAs, it's always good to check the CA guidelines to see if the CAs are following them. And also the VCA's guidelines, which is the Keyway Stage Guide. That was just updated. And you can check here you can check the timelines and dates, and some background about this phase as well, and what is expected from the proposers and from the VCAs as well. And we also have a VCA tool, as we also have a CA tool. This is a little bit different. I'm not sure if Lucio wants to comment something here about the tool, or maybe in another opportunity. What do you think, Lucio?
Yes, if you want. Yes, I don't know if we are going late, but it's good for me. Okay, basically this is there are 2 ways for VCA to categorize the various assessments. And one way is using a Google spreadsheet, and the other way is using this tool. Basically, the process is the same. It's only the only main difference is about the user interface. And also, one cool thing about the VCA tool is that it will collect the amount of VCAs that will review a specific assessment. And this is really important because in this way we can distribute our workload, and basically we are sure that every assessment will be reviewed. This tool will work on the Brave browser. Basically, the mechanism is the same of the CA tool. So it will store stuff on the local storage, but you have the possibility to export your results. So basically you can export your work and then re-import it on the next session. So it's like a mechanism to basically save your work. And okay, if you click start process, Victor. Okay, you have this first view, basically to collect your information, your full name, the email, and there is a tick box to choose if you want to have access to proposers' rationales. So basically, in this way, this time for this fund, you can choose if you want to see what are the comments of the proposal for the reports. And okay, if you can fill it, Victor, or I want that I can share my screen, maybe.
Yeah, I think you can share a screen.
Okay. Okay. Okay, you can see it. Okay, basically, I will just set some basic information. I tick this box, and if I maybe the idea in the last funds was that VCA doesn't have to be biased from the proposer perspective. So in this way, you can choose basically, so if you want to see their opinion. And in this drop box here, you can just select the CSV file, and you will have some instruction about that, just to how to obtain the original CSV file. And this can be also your export. So basically, as I said before, you can just export your work and then re-import later. I will click import data, and then I will have basically in the tool all the assessments that the CAs have provided for the fund. Here I have this button here that can help me to filter out the assessments. So basically I can choose, for example, to only see the flagged one by proposers, or maybe from a specific assessor. And here at the bottom, you can see the list of the filtered assessments. And you also have these 4 buttons here. The first one just mixes up randomly the assessments. The other one filter out the assessment by if they are low reviewed by other VCAs, or if they have no reviews by other VCAs. So in this way we can distribute all our workload. And also there is just the all button that allow you to see all the reviews. Here in the list, you have a quick summary about the assessment. So basically which proposal refer to, the average rating, the assessor, the number of VCA's reviews, if it was flagged by proposer, and if I already reviewed it. Clicking open, I will actually see the assessment. And I have the basic information again, and the 3 criteria for the assessment. So impact alignment with the rating and the comment, and the same for feasibility and auditability. And then at the bottom, I have this flagged by proposer. In the first step, I choose to see the proposal rationale. So I will see also the rationale from the proposer. And then I have my review, and basically I can just pick if the assessment for me is excellent, good, or not valid. And I think it is excellent, and I can go on just clicking next, and I will see the next assessment. I click excellent and go on. Okay, I will do it. Yes, this is. I will change the wording. Not valid will be filtered out. Okay, I will do basically this action a lot of time, always reading everything. I have here also a link to the proposal in idea scale, because it's really important to see, obviously, to have the main picture about an assessment. And after that, here in the top right, there is a button, export CSV. And basically, this will download the file, the original CSV with my choices. And for example, I can just to show you, I will clear the database. I will re-import it from the beginning, and I will now import my last file. And when I import it, you can see that it's already reviewed, because basically in the last time I chose excellent for these specific assessments. And that's it. And in the end, when you have finished your process, you will have to fill a form and upload this output file to this form, and all these files will be collected, and a script will run and calculate the final results. Is there a way to cycle all assessments proposal one after the other? Yes, you can basically select a specific proposal, and you will have all the assessments for the specific proposal. And when you hit next, you see basically the next assessment in the list that you have filtered before. Okay. And just to have the complete picture, this is the other way to follow this process. It's the old way, but maybe you are more comfortable to using a spreadsheet. And basically, this is the file with all the reviews. There is a column for the note for each criteria and a column for the rating. So we have impact and the rating, the feasibility and the rating, the auditability and the rating, if the proposer have flagged the review, and if there is a rationale. And in the end, here these 3 columns that you can check just writing an X on your choice. After that, as before, you can just export this file and share the link in the final form. Okay, yes, basically you are not supposed to review your own assessments, but keep in mind that your name will be public, so everything okay. Can you rephrase it, maybe?
Yeah, I think he's asking if he can review assessments made to a proposal that he has also assessed. For example, he can like remove the other assessments so he can get more rewards.
Yes, yes. Basically, nothing. There is no limit about that, but probably you're not the only one that will review those assessments. So probably the consensus that will be applied can balance this behavior, I think.
I think Marek wants to say something.
It's not forbidden or allowed, but again, you are going public with your name. So if you mark some excellent assessments as not valid, everyone will see that. And probably for your reputation, it's not something good.
I will need to speak because clearly I'm not being clear. So I'm not talking about like bashing everyone else's proposals, but if I happen to review something in a proposal that I have also assessed, is that okay? Or
I think that's in that case you have more knowledge about the proposal, so it's the perfect place to review the other assessments, I think.
Okay,
and
that's what I want to know.
Yeah. Can we export the spreadsheet into a CSV? Yes, it's actually the process will be the same. The original CSV will be should be exported from the spreadsheet.
I guess the only other point to make on that is maybe if you're reviewing yourself as a VCA and you'll review against other people's reviews, don't just give yourself excellent every single time. It will get picked up, I'm sure.
No, obviously.
Edge case. I know. Yeah, I know. I'm saying it as a joke more than anything. But yeah,
obviously, I wouldn't review my own assessments, but other people's assessment in the same proposal.
Yeah.
It may happen.
It's an edge case, though.
Yeah, it may happen that you will forget that it's your own assessment.
Oh, this guy's awesome. Oh no, I really don't agree with this person.
I have to admit that in the last fund, after like 2,000 of assessments, things gets really, really confused. But
it's really easy to do. Hey guys, I mean, I'm sure you all do it anyway, but I find doing any more than 4 or 5, one after another, after that, I just become inherently grumpy. If I'm reviewing, like I need to do them in sort of short bursts of 3 or 4, take a break, come back to it, or something like that. Because yeah, you do get grumpier as a CA. I know we're talking about VCAs, but you do get grumpier the longer you're doing these things. It just happens that way.
Yes.
Or it's just me. Has anybody else got that experience? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. I think I used some strategy like I don't know, searching for simple stuff to flag when I was tired, something like that.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, Mark.
Awesome. Hi. How do veteran community advisor know how can you go to the VCA tool tab?
Yeah.
Okay, and there is a counter number of VCA reviews.
Yes.
How is it being counted?
There is a server that basically gets it is on the server. There is a list of the all assessments, and the counter gets increased when you check one of the 3 options, and gets decreased when you uncheck it. So basically, there is a central server that aggregate these counters.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm going to think about wrapping up for myself. I don't know whether you guys want to continue or you're also beginning to flag. It's been a long day for everyone, I think.
Yes. And tomorrow probably will be another long day. So.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up already. This was the last slide. Actually, the next one is just some links to some important links to Catalyst, the school, and some partner projects. We are going to share the link here again in the chat. And that's it, guys. Thanks for being here. And let's be in touch during these next 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone. Really good to see you all. Great discussion. And it's good to challenge everything, right? I think that's the way that we improve and get better. So yeah, until next time.
Thanks. It was great to see everyone.
Yeah, see you tomorrow or in 2 days. Have a great day, night, if the evening, afternoon. Bye, guys.
Bye.